and I think the Cavaliers will be up for the challenge.
So many storylines going into this one. There's going to be Kenny versus Steve.
Yeah. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. The Rock will be on fire.
Oh, yeah. We will be there. We hope you'll be there, too. If not, hopefully you're joining us here on FanDuel Sports Network. That's going to do it for Cavaliers Live here tonight. The Cavs start the season for the first time 9-0.
Recording in progress.
Mom and Dad are selling weed till the weekend. Can't so bad.
All right.
This crowd rises to its feet. Vaccaro slammed it home. Garland left wing, free ball. Perfect! Garland one of the lane, locked him only. Pow! And Allen blocked the shot at the rim. Pow! With the left hand and a foul.
Welcome to the Chase Down Podcast, part of the Cavs Media family. I'm your host, Justin Rowan. The Chase Down is presented by Fubo, the official streaming partner of the Cavs. Watch over 350 channels of live sports and TV, including FanDuel Sports Network without cable. There's no cost and no commitment. Try for free at FuboTV.com/Cavs. The Cleveland Cavaliers are officially off to the best start in franchise history with a 9-0 record through 9 games, 9 up, 9 down. Great win against the New Orleans Pelicans, coming off a rare day off, it feels. The schedule has been coming fast and furious, and coming fast and furious is my co-host, Carter Rodriguez. Carter, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good.
You're going to bring the energy. I've already set the tone for you here. It is now on you to deliver on my promise.
Am I?
Yes.
I'm a sleepy boy tonight. It's just fun. It's just fun. They have such a ability to kind of just knock teams out. They have an ability to grind out games. This game was kind of a series of New Orleans clawing back with a series of improbable shots, and then the Cavs throwing another haymaker and knocking them 5 feet back. It's just fun to see this team reliably win in so many ways. Yet another game where the whistle is really rough for the team. And they're not getting to the line. The other team's getting to the line a lot. Zion took as many free throw attempts as the entire Cavaliers team did. It wasn't for lack of playing in the paint. I thought the Cavs were pretty physical offensively, but they just keep finding ways to win, Justin. I know this Pelicans team isn't they're not a gangbusters Pelly's squad. They're missing 4 or 5 rotation players, and that does matter, but Jose Alvarado has an out-of-body experience and hits 7 straight threes.
Yeah, can I just say, between AJ Green and Jose Alvarado, like a series of Unbelievable Shots is like my least favorite Lemony Snicket book. So I've really
Net
not
ratings
enjoyed
killers is what we call them in these parts.
You know, and cleaning the glass doesn't filter that. They filter out garbage time. They don't filter out, oh my goodness, this guy is 7 for 7 or 7 of 9, whatever AJ Green was. It makes me feel good though, because how many times have we sat here on a post game podcast where we're like, shooting variance, like the other team got hot on a night where you just didn't have your legs for a little stretch. And, it's just hard to catch up. It's hard to play that math game. It's hard to generate enough offense to do that. And, according to our good friends at Cavs Notes, the Cavs now have as many 130-point games this year as they did all of last season, which is 4. That's unbelievable. The Cavs are getting to that number with, just an insane regularity. That first quarter against the Pelicans, I really felt like they came out flat. I couldn't tell if it was a lack of focus, if it was dead legs. You're playing in a sparsely populated arena. Some guys are out for the Pelicans. It was a low energy kind of start to the game. That's the type of thing that can kind of bite you. And I was sitting there, I was like, man, it really felt like we didn't have, a good first quarter and we left a lot of food on the table. Meanwhile, they shot 50% from the floor, 50% from 3, and had 29 points. Like, the floor of this team on a night-to-night performance, at least when they have all their horses, just seems like insanely high.
Yeah, dude. I mean, like, I guess the real thing to point out when you mention the shooting variance is, like, I'm sitting here thinking, all right, maybe, the people who yelled at us every time we mentioned that, maybe there was some validity to it, because we are getting hit by some of those games and we're still winning. Mm-hmm. But then I go and look, and like, we're just, every time I check a Cavs box score, we're between 42 and 48% from 3 on decent volume. Like, this team's offense is just such a buzzsaw right now. It just kind of hasn't mattered if another team is going nuts.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I still think, outlier performances are outliers. I think the Cavs shooting is probably going to come back down to earth at certain points of the season. I do feel like we're generating really good looks and we have really good shooters. And, some of the stuff we talked about last season of, hey, this team probably has, more room to grow from a shooting standpoint. Like, we have really good shooters that didn't have great shooting years. They were playing through lower body injuries. The shot quality wasn't as good. Like, there was all of that kind of stuff. But I still feel like some of this is going to come back down to earth, right?
Yeah,
all our guys aren't going to shoot 50%, on the majority of nights. So it's going to come back down. But yeah, like, if your counter to awesome shooting variance nights for the other team is just, well, we're just going to answer and we're going to, hit all of our shots as well. If that is sustainable, we are in for a fun 82 games. I just don't think that's the case.
Well, sure. But again, I just think the shots are, like, the only person who I think is taking outrageously difficult threes right now for the Cavs, or really outrageously difficult shots right now for the Cavs, I think are really, it's just Donovan, Darius, and then Sam. Like, you're not having nights where career 30, Karras, I guess, is probably the only other outlier where you go, his efficiency stats are so much higher than his career. But, this isn't Niang, going ballistic and going 8 of 8. It's just like, just steadily every time he takes 5 threes, he makes 2 of them. Like, there's a lot of that with this offense right now where that part does feel more sustainable, because the outlier performances don't feel outliery, and maybe that's just a little bit of confirmation bias and just being a fan of the team. But like, I don't know. I just feel like there's a difference between what the Cavs have been doing in the first 9 games to start the season and what Jose Alvarado and AJ Green have done in the last 2 games.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. And, we talked about this before, but I still feel like there's room to get better on that end, especially when Max comes back. Just looking at the way that he elevated lineups last year, I think that's going to make a real big difference for them. But, I think one of the stories has been just the resiliency of this group. Like, they do have a lot of depth. They've been able to go to a wide variety of lineups. For some reason, when we lose guys, we lose an entire position group at a time. And
always and forever, brother.
When Max Strus, Dean Wade, Karis LeVert, and Jalen Tyson are all out, like, you really went all the way down to Isaac Okoro. And you look at Okoro now, he's played 31 minutes with the core four, and it's back to 22-23, baby. Like, they have a 118 offensive rating, a 95 defensive rating, plus 22 net rating in those minutes.
Dude, how nice it is by the way to have your third choice at small forward be a guy who's logged this many minutes with your starters, this many successful minutes with your other starters.
That's such a great point. Like, they do have that familiarity, they do have that chemistry, and whether it's getting more minutes or just Okoro rediscovering his confidence, like, I thought he's been playing really well. I will say I think he's kind of got hung up defensively a few more times than I'm used to. There's been times where the screen navigation isn't as crisp as it usually is, just because he is someone that set a high standard for himself there. I feel like I don't notice him moving guys around defensively as much as I recall in the past. I thought he did a good job of that on Dame.
I'll tell you what, that man, you will find no happier version of Isaac Okoro than the one guarding Damian Lillard. Like, I feel like there are certain, like, every now and again in the league, you just find a guy that's like, this is my guy. I was built in a lab to guard this guy. Mm-hmm. And that is, like, because, like, Isaac, like, I feel like, among the stoppers in the league, because he's not a big box score guy, I feel like a lot of times his impact can be intangible, or it can be that I made him take a hard shot and maybe he makes it and sometimes he misses it. Feels like Dame does not do well whenever Isaac is guarding him. And go ahead.
And going back to that, the end of that Milwaukee game, Cavs had kind of already put it away. I believe they were up 4 at the time. But Okoro defending Dame, he basically kind of forces Dame to go for the quick two rather than hunting a three because of the way he was playing him. And that's one of those plays that doesn't show up on the box score, because what ended up happening on the box score? Jared Allen erased Damian Lillard and ended the game. But Isaac Okoro pressuring him and forcing him to go for the quick two rather than being able to, kind of size him up and take a three. That's the type of thing that makes a big difference in those spots. And, I think it speaks to kind of the versatility that the Cavs have at the wing position. I think Dean Wade is more suited to guard forwards. Like, I think 4-3-5, if I kind of had to rank what positions I think he's best at defending, that would be the order I'd put them in.
I'll go. I think he does great on wings. I think he's actually most noticeable against threes.
I like him against the bigger threes. Like, at this point, fours are bigger threes for most teams.
Sure.
Not many teams have an Evan Mobley. I guess in my head, I'm thinking, oh, he's done a great job on Jason Tatum, and Tatum plays the 4 for Boston. So maybe that's what I'm doing there. But I feel like when it gets to, 2s and 1s, he can get a little handsy. I don't think, the foot speed is necessarily there. And that's not uncommon for, a 6'10" player. But I do like that you have this option in Isaac, who does a good job on threes, but can also go down to the 2s and 1s. I like that Max Strus is someone that, honestly, in terms of versatility, like, I feel like he does a better job guarding up, like when it gets to even 3s and 4s than Isaac does. He played a third of his minutes at power forward with Miami when they went to the finals, including a series against the Boston Celtics. But I also feel like he can defend guards well. So he's got a lot of versatility on that end. It is kind of a nice luxury. Like, we don't have tons of big size on the wing, but I do like that when we evaluate what kind of options we have in late game scenarios, which is so important when it comes to the playoffs, I do like, and I kind of anticipate seeing Kenny close with a variety of different guys. Sometimes it's going to be Karis, sometimes it's going to be Isaac. Sometimes
I think if we play
Wade,
bro, if we play Milwaukee in a playoff series, assuming they get there, I think Isaac would close a lot of games.
I think so too, especially if you have the lead, right? Like it's going to come down to situation, and Karras has done such a good job defensively. Like it just goes to show you like the level of buy-in and also the level of unselfishness. Like I don't think you can do this with every team in the league, but everybody seems to be pulling in the same direction. And, I think that is true in terms of who's getting minutes. I think that's true of who's getting opportunities within these games. Like you really are seeing that anytime someone starts to get it going, there's a group effort to continue to feed them, to continue to let's explore the space. Let's see how nuts you can go for an extended stretch. And once you start cooling off, someone else is going to be able to step up and take that role.
Yeah, man, it's a fun team. I know I'm kind of just bouncing around a little bit, but something I wanted to talk about was, dude, how about Jared Allen? Like the rebounding. Doesn't it feel like it's taken a leap this year a little bit with him? He's at 14 boards per 36 right now.
Wow.
And I feel like on the defensive glass, he is high pointing it a little more than he used to. And he is in perfect position to get two hands on the ball more often than he has in the past. I don't know if that's just more functional space. I don't know if that's a byproduct of how the defense is kind of funneling guys to him. But I feel like he has really grounded them a lot this year. Like, he's also been part of the highs, but I also think he keeps the floor really, really high right now. And he always has done that, but I feel like he's doing it more than he ever has right now. Your thoughts?
I almost feel like I am noticing that more on the offensive glass than the defensive, because I really do feel like he took a step forward last year on the defensive glass. I thought he was a lot more reliable in that area, but I'm feeling him fighting for boards more frequently. And I do think, your point about him being in position to high point the ball and under control, not reaching, behind his head where you're not going to have as much, functional strength in that position. Like, I think all of that stuff has improved. I think the positioning has got better. So,
I just pulled up his basketball reference chart, not including tonight's game, where he pulled down 12 defensive rebounds in 35 minutes. He is averaging 11.5 defensive rebounds per 36. Wow. That's almost 3 higher than his career best.
Wow. Yeah, like he's been phenomenal. And, it's kind of funny because we're getting these Mobley grab and go but off of defensive rebounds. But it really does feel like other times Jared is still kind of that vacuum that's cleaning up absolutely everything. And the mentality is kind of, it's not like a Russell Westbrook where, the structure is let's get Russ these defensive rebounds so he can initiate every single time. Instead, it's all right, if Mobley's not in position to get this defensive rebound, Mobley's already sprinting down the floor because Jared's going to get this rebound. He's going to head man it to it, and maybe we can get the ball to Mobley in full sprint and he can make a play in that spot, right? Like, it's, even though there is such an emphasis to use guys in different ways, to play with pace, to get Mobley initiating, they're not forcing it. It still feels like it's coming within the flow of the game. And, I think tonight was a night where, Mobley, 15 points, 9 boards, 3 assists, 3 blocks, 7 of 16. Like, that probably would be, a pretty regular game for him last season. But for me, this probably felt like his worst game of the year. Like, I felt like he was a step slow. He looked, a little tired. Early in the game, you have Yves Missi that was kind of giving him the business on both ends of the court.
I was texting our mutual buddy Mason Ginsberg, who does a great job covering the Pelicans. I'm like, ooh, he's kind of fun.
That guy is an athlete. Like, he is an all caps athlete. He just absolutely ridiculous. I think once he kind of puts everything together, I can see him definitely being a player. I can see him, being a strong role player. I feel like when he's making his moves, he's doing everything at like 1.4 speed, or if you're a Chase Down listener, my speed when I talk. I just feel like he's such a great athlete, and Mobley on a night where he just kind of seemed a little bit like a step slow. A guy like that gave him some problems at times, but I thought other times Mobley was brilliant. I thought, that Jared Allen block that led to the Mobley fast break, that pass he made to Okoro off the dribble.
Filthy.
Gorgeous feed. Like, once again, just like we talked about the floor being high with the offense, I feel like the floor for Evan Mobley performances is higher than ever. Because if this is, the worst game of the year through 9 games, we're in a pretty good place.
Yeah, I mean, and like I'll touch on Mobley a little bit, but I did want to just kind of say one last thing about Jarrett in terms of his ability to insulate from that kind of thing. Like I felt like Mobley really helped pick him up in the Milwaukee game where Jarrett came out really rough, and now I feel like on the other end, Jarrett's like, able to, carry in a game like this where, again, 16 and 14 isn't like a crazy stat line, but I don't know, man. I just thought he was
pretty damn good.
Yeah, I mean, I just thought he was so damn good tonight. Like, even on plays that, his name's not going to get called, but on that Ty Jerome catch and shoot 3 in transition, he's only open because Jarrett runs the floor really, really hard and sucks a defender in. That's not showing up unless you're paying really close attention to the fact that he's got an extra pep in his step running down the floor in the middle of the game. And, after helping secure a stop, and like those are the kind of possessions that I just feel like you can just count on him for. And I don't know, basketball is just such a game of inches, dude. And how many times did we watch talented young Cavs teams that had, every reason to be good, but just didn't know how to do any of the small stuff? And I feel like we've landed on a team that everyone does the small stuff all the time. So even when they're not having a great game, they kind of can hang, they can hang around. And then the second they put a few good plays together where they're able to finish, that's when the haymakers come, and it's just, I just am so appreciative. Obviously 9-0 is great. And I'm not going to diminish that at all, but I'm mostly just appreciative of the fact that these guys are playing well enough to they just are all such a smart set of players and easy to root for because of those little things like running in transition and sucking a defender in. So Ty Jerome gets a wide open transition 3.
Yeah. I think you just feel so much more confident when the small things are being taken care of too, right? And our listeners can feel the same way with Zoom AI Companion, because only you can do your best work, but Zoom AI Companion can help you with the rest, like automatically taking notes, answering meeting questions, and helping you respond to your coworker. Available at no additional cost with eligible paid plans. Work happy with Zoom AI Companion.
Justin, can I quickly shout out our live chat? We got 212 people hanging out at 11:30 Eastern time on a weeknight. Thank you, gang. Nuts.
We love you guys. Thank you so much. Really do appreciate that. You were correct to bring it back to Jarrett. I don't want to move off him just yet because, we talked about how the first half did feel a little flat at times. I thought his stretch in the third breathed life into this team. Everybody locked in defensively, and so much of it, started with Jared Allen, both with, his effort on the defensive end. And then there was also that Mitchell push shot where it came up just short. Allen gets the offensive rebound and dunks the living hell out of that ball. You could see Donnie going back on defense. He had a little hop, he was so excited with Allen doing that. And I just think it really does raise your confidence as a basketball player when it's not all going to come on me. It's got to be everybody's going to be able to step up. Everyone's willing to contribute. Everyone's able to contribute. I know that, Jared Allen is going to contest all of these shots. He's going to try to generate, offensive rebound opportunities. As strong as his individual rebounding numbers are, I feel like sometimes the chaos he creates generates opportunities for a Karis LeVert or Isaac Okoro or even the guards to get in there and get some of those offensive rebounds. I honestly thought Donovan Mitchell, for the first 3 quarters, he didn't really have to get out of second gear. It wasn't reflected in the assist numbers, but I thought he made some brilliant passes.
Dude, he had some pace on some of those passes, man.
Yeah, I think he was just 5 of 10 for the the first 3 quarters, and then went 5 of 10 in the fourth. like he just shut the door, right? Like he stepped up. He didn't have to do much. He was kind of, feeling out the game. I didn't think I'm not saying he had a bad game. I'm saying like he was just kind of relaxed. Like he just kind of trusted the team to do what they needed to do. And, Darius had his run in the third quarter that really kind of gave them the lead and ultimately was the lead that they were able to hang on to there. Jared Allen, as we said, his defense was key, and they all just kind of keyed in on the defensive end and helped turn the tide in this game. It's just so fun to have that. And I think it's also a real luxury to have the depth that the Cavs have, because you're still missing some key pieces here on the injury report. You get Karis LeVert coming back. I think I really felt that he had fresh legs. Like I think him and Ty Jerome, when they subbed in, they really gave the Cavs a little burst when they needed to have that. And Ty Jerome, because he hasn't had to play so many minutes, that guy's just always got fresh legs. And I'm prone to hyperbole, but he might be the best basketball player I've ever seen.
He is he's easy to root for, man. That stop and start game, the floaters, the kind of the nastiness to that stop and start. He's got sharp elbows. And like, I don't know. It's a team that at its worst has leaned a little finesse in how they attack the rim. It's kind of nice seeing a guy who just digs his elbow into someone's side on the way in. It's just like, I don't have a nicer way to say that. He just kind of plays nasty. And like, I think that's really, really valuable to have that change of pace, because it does set the tone. I think it energizes the team. It kind of gives everyone else permission to play a little nasty. You look at a guy like Josh Hart in New York. I think he does that for them. I think Ty does that for us right now. I've really been enjoying seeing him take the three a little bit more. I think he's got a really nice looking shot, and it's going in at a high rate. That second quarter. Go ahead.
You talked about how, Darius, Donovan, and Sam are all kind of hitting and taking some tough shots. They're getting a good variety of open ones too, but I feel like Ty's just taking open ones. Like, everyone's accounting for everybody else, and Ty Jerome's like, I'm just going to step into this shot. He's willing to take kind of those deep threes, so I think that's probably like the degree of difficulty. But he's just so confident, and he's so on balance all the time as a player.
Yeah, he's pretty dope. I really think he's someone who I just think belongs in the rotation moving forward. And I think going into this, I thought if Ty was a guy that earned his way into the rotation, I would have thought that Karis would be the one who I would be like, okay, well, he's probably the one who's gonna lose the minutes. But I think Karis is playing the best basketball I've ever seen him play. I feel like this was the version of Karis that the Cavs thought they were trading for in Indy when they traded in Indy. Like, I feel like the mix of self-creation and playmaking for others off schedule, which he's always done, but like, I feel like so much more of his play is now in the flow of what the Cavs are doing, more than it's ever been. And like, it just feels like the perfect mix right now of Karis go do Karis stuff and Karis blend in with our guys.
It's really funny because I think prior to this year, the best season Karis had was probably 22-23. He had a really nice year shooting from outside. I thought he gave the Cavs a lot in that season. Obviously has taken a step forward defensively. I think it's been pretty consistent. But I have to agree. Like, I feel like the version of Karis LeVert we're seeing this year is like the actualized version of Karis LeVert that like got people in Brooklyn excited like 10 years ago or however long that was. Like, I just feel like this is the most under control Karis has been. The odd time where you need to have someone create against a set defense and attempt a tough shot, it's kind of nice to have another guy that can do that, right? Like Donovan's able to do that. I thought, he's pressing a little bit at times in the fourth quarter, going for the kill shot, but he also delivered some kill shots in the fourth quarter. And, Karras is that same kind of guy, obviously not at the same level, but he is someone that can, take and make some really tough shots and go with those no, yes ones that just feel so good. Like, when a player
I just think there's less of those, this year.
Right. It's like one or maybe two a game, if that. Like there are some games like the Toronto game. I don't think he had a single one of those because everything was just in the flow of the offense. He just had such an efficient night. You can't leave him alone as a shooter right now. And, the Cavs having another guy that you can't leave alone just makes them so difficult. And I think that's why you've seen the type of offensive outputs that they've had. And, defensively, I think it's still there. Like, I think he is playing really, really fantastic defense. And, it's kind of funny because this, we're both in agreement that this is the best version of Caris LeVert. But the funny thing about it is this version of Caris LeVert, we're not seeing probably one of the most reliable parts of his game used a lot, which has been his pick and roll offense. Like he's been such a good pick and roll ball handler. He'd get those little drop off passes to Mobley and Allen, and he's just not being used in that way because it's like it's just not coming up. They haven't had to do that because they're getting so much flow in other ways,
and because obviously their guards have played every game so far. Right. He hasn't had to take that, but all the stuff we talked about wanting to see going into the season for Darius and Donovan, which is less starting possessions from scratch and trying to attack a set defense. All those things apply to Karras too, Karras can do all those things. He can run a high pick and roll against second units and that are set and generally create pretty decent shots with his shot making, his interior passing, etc. But it's like, why not give him a running start? Why not give him the ball with advantage more often and let him use his advanced handle, his advanced, his size, his length, his clearly improved jumper to see if we can press that advantage before we default to let's see what you can do, Karras. And I feel like that's definitely happened. Our YouTube chat, Justin, by the way, has informed me that the Denver Nuggets have beaten the Oklahoma City Thunder, and we are the last undefeated team in the NBA.
Oh, I can't believe we're scoreboard watching already, but I am 100% scoreboard watching. The Cavs opponent on Friday, the Golden State Warriors, of course, knocked off the Boston Celtics today. So we have 2 fewer losses than them. Boston, no Jaylen Brown, no Kristaps Porzingis. They're a little on the short-handed side. But this Warriors team is legit, man. They have the number 3 offense. They have the number 2 defense, number 2 net rating. Like, they've been phenomenal. That's going to be a real test.
Might be number 1 after tonight.
It was already, that's with that updated. OKC's could go down.
What I'm saying.
Right. Yeah, see, you're thinking a little sharper than I am right now, which tends to happen and annoys me. But yeah, that's going to be a real test. That could be a preview of chapter 5 if this keeps going on.
Yeah, I actually just I DM'd our mutual buddy Jacob, our Warriors fan buddy, and was like, "See you in June, brother."
That would really be something.
It does feel kind of cool though, the fact that I was thinking about okay, we got a marquee Friday night game against the Warriors with real how do we stack up in the league stakes? Kind of feels like old times. It's kind of fun.
It's funny because last season had such a rough start to the year. But then I remember the Warriors came into town. They were riding so much momentum. All the national podcasts were talking about them. And we beat them in Cleveland and then beat them in Golden State. And I was like, all right, that's what we needed. We're turning this season around. And, of course, everything got weird from there. But, yeah, it's nice to, have another shot at that. The Cavs, for their part, are the number 1 offense in the league so far. Number 9 defensively, and they have the 3rd best net rating. As Carter mentioned, that may change based on what happens with OKC here once all those numbers are in. But, it's it's fun. It's fun to have a test like that. Cleveland still does not have a stretch of 2 days off for another 2 weeks.
17 and 28, buddy.
17 games in 28 days. That's absolutely unbelievable. And then when you think about how much travel they've had, like 9-0 is impressive to start the season. Obviously it's a record for Kenny Atkinson, the best start to a season for a new head coach with the team. It's also tied for the longest winning streak that a first-year head coach with a team has had. He's trying to get that record all alone against his former team as well in Golden State. So that's a really cool storyline. But it's just fun. It's fun to be tested in that way. I think the schedule over the next 2 weeks, as we continue to get through this 17 and 28 stretch, that's going to be part of the challenge as well. I can see, dropping a game in Chicago. I can see, losing to the Brooklyn Nets coming off the game with the Warriors. Like, it's going to be really tough. This is where the depth really, really matters. And the fact that they've managed to, keep the minutes down, that's a huge win. Like, Evan Mobley fouled out for the first time since January 2023, third time in his career. So that's the type of situation where you think, Mobley foul trouble. You're going to need Jarrett to play a lot of minutes. He played 34. Like, that's a lot for this season, but it's not a lot in the grand scheme of things.
No, it's not. And again, I just think, I do think the bigs are the spot where you got to keep your eye on things. Obviously, just guys getting nicked up and dinged up and needing rest, things like guys getting sick, and I don't think we should get it twisted. Like, Cavs have had some fortuitous injury luck so far, no Paolo, no Giannis in the second leg.
Even looking ahead to next week, like, Embiid's going to be back, but it's second night of a back-to-back, and it's the NBA tournament the first night. So, if there's a game they're going to be playing, it's going to be that first one.
So, part of a run like this is luck. Sometimes it's shooting luck, sometimes it's injury luck. But a lot of things are breaking right for the Cavs right now. So, they've had to earn. I really wanted to see them smack Milwaukee on the second leg in New Orleans for me to feel like, how high could this go? And still, it's every game is every game. But I feel like they really have had to work their way to win these last couple.
Those are games you could lose, man. Like, Damian Lillard having these kind of vintage performances, and having someone like AJ Green come alongside him and go 7 and 9 from 3, like, that's the type of night that can absolutely beat you. Like,
someone in the chat, J.I. Tiller just mentioned Buddy Hield is a Cavs killer, and I forgot he was in Golden State.
Absolutely a Cavs killer. And when you think about the Warriors having the third best offense, and they were missing Steph for some of these games, like, they're
good, man.
They're really, really damn good. It sucks that they're good, but it's also kind of cool
fun.
that they're good.
I look at them like an old. Yeah, I feel like if they're good, I can root against them easier.
Yeah, I get that.
There's joy in the hatred.
See, my petty is a special brand of petty, because the leading cause of my resentment when it comes to the Golden State Warriors is the year that they got hurt was against the Toronto Raptors and gave Toronto a title.
That's a you problem, brother.
That pisses me off more than anything else.
I can't solve that. That's between you and your therapist.
They couldn't get hurt once against us. Not once. Just drives me absolutely nuts that's how it played out. And Toronto,
it's just nice getting Draymond's going to do something and flex, and it's going to be infuriating. Crowd's going to be so annoying. Crowd's going to be booing the hell out of him. It's going to be such a fun environment in Cleveland. We might have to
put Tristan in just to put Tristan.
Yeah.
Well, the nice thing, and the one thing we need to cover before we get out of here, the nice thing is, if the game comes down to the wire, we now have two guys that we can feel pretty confident about coming into this, because since we last recorded, we did have another Darius closing time game against the Milwaukee Bucks. That 5-minute stretch to close out that game was absolutely insane. Some of the shot making from Dame was out of this world. Darius was out of this world with the shots he was hitting. And, to me, the biggest thing is just the confidence. The confidence to take the shots, the confidence to, create for others. I feel like there's less aimless possessions for him where he's, just kind of probing around in the paint. He's just so much more decisive with all of his moves. And, we talked about...
But not overly decisive. I think this is important to note because I feel like last year, and again, who knows if this is true or not, if it was just vibes because it was a rough year. But it felt like when he had these opportunities late in game, it was like he was deciding, like, okay, I got to switch. I got to ISO this guy. Or, whatever it might be. I got to... And, so, yeah, he's being decisive, but he's still reading the floor. He hits the, the Bucks go under the screen. He hits the step back on AJ Green, hits the 3, big moment. And the next play, he runs pick and roll and hits Jarrett in the pocket for a huge finish. So it's like he's still reading the game. And that's where Darius is at his most dangerous. I've said it 100 times. I don't think Darius is ever going to be an elite isolation player. What makes him an elite player is that he makes good reads at weird times that defenses can't predict. And I think he really is showing that.
Yeah. And Darius at his best is unpredictable, but he knows what he's doing. And I feel confident in his decision making right now. Like that fast break possession where he made the fake pass and then found Evan cutting baseline. Insane. That's gross. Like what he's showing me here, Darius. Like this is out of this world. And the shot making has felt so confident. I loved his off ball play. Like we talked about going into this year, it would be a needle mover if we could get Darius back to where he was at 22, 23. And honestly, I feel like what we're seeing this year is the leap we were hoping that we were going to see last year, before injuries derailed everything. I feel like this is the best version of Darius Garland that we've seen. And it's not just the shooting. The shooting could come back down to 40% and he plays this exact same way. And I'm perfectly fine with it. I've loved the decision making. I've loved the process. I'm not sitting there being like, oh God, someone went under and he didn't punish them. He is hunting to take these 3-point shots. And I think it's completely changed the calculus of how defenses have to play the Cavs. And, we saw in 22-23, when Darius was on the court, the Cavs had the second best offense in the league. When he was off the court, they had the second worst offense in the league. He was that kind of difference maker in terms of making everybody else better. And when you get this aggressive version of Darius, I think it's a big, big part of why you have 430-point games already. I think it's a big part of why everyone else looks better because more than anyone else on this team, when Darius is at his best, everybody else looks better.
Yeah, and this is what we talked about very early on in his career when we were talking about him and Colin Sexton, the old Sexland era, is when Darius first started making his rise. We noted that when Darius would drop 30, Colin would still drop 26, 27, Yeah. And it was like, oh, this is a dude who doesn't need to hijack things to get his. He just needs to get aggressive, and everyone else is still going to eat, Yeah. It doesn't have to get heliocentric, where he's just juicing his own numbers because of his kind of innate feel for the game and the fact that he's just a pure point guard. So we're seeing that in even starker contrast. I also think it shouldn't go unnoticed that in 2 of our 3 closest games, Darius took over and won the game for us against star point guards, Jalen Brunson, Damian Lillard. Darius getting back to the point where he is clearly outperforming them in these big moments and over the course of these games is it's like a fever dream, man. It's oh yeah, there it is. There's that guy, and there's that, there's the thing we've always talked about. We've been talking about this since freaking 2016, where, Kyrie didn't have to be a better player than Steph. He had to be able to be better than him 3 or 4 games in a series. And like, I kind of feel like the same thing applies for Darius. Darius doesn't have to have a better season than Jalen Brunson this year. He doesn't, but like, if we get into a postseason and Darius is drawing dead with him, we're not losing that series.
How much better would you guess that our offensive rating is with Darius on the court versus off the court this season?
I'm gonna guess a pretty big number. I'm gonna say plus 20.
No, it's plus 14.6. We have
That's enormous, though.
Yeah, we have a 127 offensive rating with him on the court and 112.4 with him off the court. The only person that's better right now is Karras. We're 16.6 points better offensively with Karras on the court, which matches the eye test. Those runs with him coming in, they're killing teams. And Karras is kind of that bridge sub where he's playing those minutes with either Darius or just Donovan and just one of the bigs. And like those lineups have been so good this year. But after those two, the next highest is Isaac Okoro at plus 3.2. Like the only ones that are in like kind of that double digit, differential are those two. And, bottom of the list right now is Donnie, which is surprising because I feel like he's played fantastic. So again, I wouldn't read too much into these, but it just matches the eye test, right? Like it's supporting the argument rather than making the argument.
Yep. And I mean that certainly tracks for me. What a fun team, man. And what I'm gonna be nervous Friday night. The chance to go 10-0 in such a marquee game. I wish that game was on national TV. But whatever.
They should flex that in. That should be the ESPN game.
I think it's too early to flex. I don't think they do it this early. But
it's never too early to flex.
Ugh, terrible. But man, I'm gonna be angsty because I really want that 10-0 start, baby.
I'm gonna be really angsty. I always want to beat the Warriors. It's gonna be a fun sports weekend for me. I'm excited for my Blue Bombers in the Western Conference Finals on Saturday. It's gonna be stressful, man. I'm gonna be having a lot of fun. It's back-to-back rivalry games, man. Cavs Warriors and then Winnipeg Saskatchewan. It's going to be brutal. And
it'll be a rough ride, am I right, fellas?
Oh, hopefully it will be for them. Big thanks to everyone that tuned in live on YouTube. We will be going, Carter will be going live Sunday at 8:30. I will not be available for that podcast, but I'll be back, later in the week. That's fine. Big thanks to everyone that tuned in live on YouTube. We really do appreciate you guys. Make sure you like and subscribe. Click that notification bell so you know when we're going live. If you're listening via podcast and you want to support us, leave us a rating, leave a review, subscribe, unsubscribe, resubscribe, and help cook those books. If you want to be part of Chase Down's exclusive Discord chat, send a screenshot of the review to chasedownpod@gmail.com. However you choose to support us, we really do appreciate it. Make sure you guys are staying safe out there. Until next time, go Cavs.